Hey, so you just bought a piece of rural land, or maybe you're getting close to pulling the trigger, and now you're starting to think about what you actually need to get things up and running out there. That's exactly what we're talking about today. Welcome to the Land Buyer's Guide. I'm your host, Scott Thomas, founder of landparker.com, where we help everyday people get onto rural land with affordable owner financing. We're talking down payments as low as $100 and payments starting at $100 a month. So if land ownership feels out of reach right now, I want you to know it probably isn't. But today we're not talking about buying land. Today we're talking about what comes next, specifically starter equipment for a small homestead. Because once you've got your land, the next question most people have is, okay, what do I actually need out here? And look, I'll be real with you. You don't need to go out and spend $50,000 before you do anything. That's one of the biggest mistakes new homesteaders make. They see the dream, they want to build it all at once, and then they either go broke or they get overwhelmed and burn out. So let's talk about building smart instead. Let's start with land management, because if you've got raw rural land, one of your first jobs is just keeping it manageable. And nothing helps with that more than a compact utility tractor. We're talking something in the 25 to 45 horsepower range. Now I know that sounds like a big purchase, and it can be. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. One tractor with the right attachments does the work of 5 or 6 different machines. You can mow with it, till with it, move dirt and gravel, dig post holes, clear brush. It's probably the single most versatile piece of equipment you can own on a small homestead. Now, if a full-size compact tractor just isn't in the budget yet, that's okay. A walk-behind two-wheel tractor, sometimes called a BCS, is a solid alternative, especially for garden work and smaller cultivation jobs. It's not going to move a pile of gravel, but for working soil and managing smaller areas, it gets the job done. You're also going to want a chainsaw. On rural land, it's just one of those tools you reach for constantly. Clearing trees, cutting firewood, cleaning up storm damage. A mid-range model with a 16 to 20-inch bar handles most of what you'll run into on a small property. And a heavy-duty string trimmer or a walk-behind brush mower is really helpful too for keeping fence lines and pathways clear without needing to bring in the big equipment every time. All right, let's talk about growing food, because for most homesteaders, that's a huge part of why they're doing this. And honestly, you don't need a ton of fancy equipment to get started with a garden. A rear tine tiller is great for breaking new ground and prepping beds. If you've got a tractor, you can get a tiller attachment and skip the standalone machine altogether. Good quality hand tools matter more than people give them credit for. A solid digging fork, a hoe, a stirrup hoe, a transplanting trowel. Buy decent ones and they'll last you 20 or 30 years, no problem. Raised beds are worth considering early on, especially if you're working with tough native soil. Cedar or untreated pine boards are popular choices. They give you control over drainage and soil quality right from the start, which makes a real difference when you're learning what your land can do. A basic drip irrigation setup is also something worth putting in early. It conserves water, keeps plants consistently hydrated, and honestly saves you a ton of time once it's running. Kits are available at most garden centers, and they're pretty affordable. And don't underestimate a good garden cart or two-wheel wheelbarrow. You'll move a lot of compost and mulch and harvested vegetables. A two-wheel cart is easier to manage on uneven ground than a single-wheel wheelbarrow, especially when it's loaded down. Now, if you're planning to bring in any animals, chickens, goats, pigs, whatever, let's talk about what you need in place before they arrive. Because setting this stuff up after the animals are already there is a stressful experience. Trust me. Fencing comes first. And the type of fencing depends on what you're raising. Different animals need different setups. But generally, you're looking at T-posts, woven wire, and possibly some electric fence supplies to start. Get this done before your animals show up. Portable corral panels are really useful too. They're flexible, you can move them around, reconfigure them for different purposes, temporary pens, handling areas, rotational grazing. They're one of those things you end up using way more than you expected. Water access is critical. A good, durable stock tank with a float valve that auto refills it takes a daily chore off your plate. Clean, consistent water access is non negotiable for healthy animals. Same idea with feeders, hay feeders, and grain feeders. Reduce waste and keep feed cleaner, which matters more than it sounds. And before any animals come home, put together a basic livestock first aid kit: wound spray, syringes, electrolytes, a thermometer. You don't want to be scrambling for that stuff when an animal needs attention at 6 in the morning. Let's shift to off grid and utility equipment for a second. Because even if you're connected to utilities, having some backup systems in place adds a level of resilience that's really valuable out in the country. A generator is near the top of the list. Rural areas lose power more often than suburbs, and when it goes out, it can stay out for a while. A dual fuel generator that runs on both gasoline and propane gives you flexibility depending on what you have available. If you're interested in off-grid energy, you don't have to go all in right away. A small solar starter kit that can power lights, charge phones, and run a few small appliances is a great way to start learning the system without a massive upfront investment. You build on it over time. Water storage is worth thinking about too. A couple of IBC totes or polyethylene tanks give you a buffer during dry spells or if your well pump needs service. It's one of those things that feels unnecessary until you really need it. A mid-duty pressure washer, electric or gas, is genuinely useful on a homestead. Cleaning out animal shelters, washing down equipment, dealing with muddy gear, it speeds things up a lot. And a good chest freezer. If you're growing food or raising meat animals, you need storage space. Chest freezers are energy efficient and they hold a lot more than they look like they should. And then there's the workshop side of things. The thing is, on a homestead, stuff breaks. Fences need fixing, equipment needs repairs, structures need maintenance. If you've got a basic workshop setup, you can handle most of that yourself without waiting on someone else or paying for a service call. A cordless drill and impact driver combo is a must. An angle grinder is surprisingly versatile, cutting metal, sharpening tools, dealing with rust. And if you're open to learning, a basic MIG welder opens up a lot of possibilities for metal repairs and small fabrication jobs. It takes some practice, but it's a skill that pays for itself on a rural property. Having a dedicated workbench with organized storage keeps everything accessible and protects your tools from the elements. Okay, so before we wrap up, let me give you a few thoughts on actually buying this stuff. Used equipment is worth looking at seriously. Tractors, implements, hand tools, a lot of this stuff turns up in great condition through local classifieds, farm auctions, and Facebook Marketplace at a fraction of new prices. It takes a little patience, but you can save real money that way. Prioritize versatility, especially early on. Equipment that does multiple things gives you more value per dollar when you're just getting started. And here's something practical. Talk to local homesteaders and neighbors. They know what holds up in your specific climate and terrain. That local knowledge is worth more than any buyer's guide. Factor in maintenance costs before you commit to something. Some equipment is cheap to buy and expensive to maintain. Check parts availability and what service options look like in your area before you pull the trigger. And really, start with what you actually need right now. Build from there. Every piece of equipment you add is a step toward greater self-sufficiency. And that's what this lifestyle is really about. All right, that's a wrap for today. If you're at the beginning of this journey and still looking for land, come check us out at landparker.com. We've got rural vacant land available across the country with owner financing that's designed to be genuinely accessible. Low down payments, low monthly payments, no credit check. It's a real path to getting on your own piece of ground. Head over to landparker.com and take a look at what's available. We'd love to help you get started.